Hello, everybody.
How are you, Mr. President? How are you?
So we had a great stay. It was an amazing period of time. President Xi's an incredible guy. Got along, made a lot of great trade deals, including over 200 planes for Boeing with a promise of 750 planes, which will be by far the largest order ever if they do a good job with the 200, which I'm sure they will. And that's General Electric also, the engines. So they're buying General Electric. So it's approximately 450 engines and 200 planes, and a promise of up to 750 if they do a good job. We had an amazing time. It was a very historic. Oh, look who we have. Hello, David. It was a very historic couple of days, I think. Really amazing.
Sir, I know there'll be a lot of questions around the China trip, but just first on Iran. Have you rejected the latest proposal from Iran, or where does that stand?
Well, I looked at it, and if I don't like the first sentence, I just throw it away.
What was the first sentence?
An unacceptable sentence. Because they have fully agreed, no nuclear, and if they have any nuclear of any form, I don't read the rest of
So
it.
20 years is not enough for you, it's got to be a permanent...
No, 20 years is enough, but the level of guarantee from them was not enough. In other words, it's got to be a real 20 years, not a big one.
Means you've got to get all the fuel out and no more production.
We have to get everything, but we're not even talking about, I call it the nuclear dust. Came up with a term which seems to have caught on.
I'm talking about it because they would not remove the...
And they said that they can't remove it because they don't have the technology to remove it.
Well,
they don't have the type of tractors. They say the only one, they told me directly, they said the only one that can remove it is China or the U.S. We're the only ones with the equipment. They said you were right. It is a complete obliteration. With that being said, I want to get it. And they agreed to it, but then they took it back, but they'll agree to it eventually.
Can I ask you about Taiwan? What did President Xi say to you about Taiwan? And what did President Xi say to you about Taiwan? And are you still going to approve the arms sale?
So President Xi and I talked a lot about Taiwan. He thinks they cannot have anything to do with what they're doing. I mean, he's against very much what they're doing. We talked about Taiwan. We talked about Iran a lot, and I think we have a very good understanding with both. On Taiwan, he does not want to see a fight for independence because that would be a very strong confrontation. And I heard him out.
Are you going to change your wording?
No, I didn't make a comment on it. I heard him out. I have a lot of respect for him. On Iran, it's very interesting. He feels strongly they can't have a nuclear weapon. He said that very strongly. They cannot have a nuclear weapon, and he wants them to open up the strait. But as he said, they closed it, and then you closed them with a smile. And it's true. We control the strait. And they've done no business, literally they've done no business in the last 2.5 weeks, which is approximately $500 million a day. So we have, we're doing very well on all fronts.
But sir, just before we leave
Taiwan, Mr. President, President Xi said that there was a risk of conflict with the US over Taiwan. What's your response to that?
I don't think there's a conflict, other than we don't need their strait. We don't need the Hormuz.
On Taiwan, Mr. President Xi said there was a risk of conflict with the US over Taiwan.
No, I don't think so. I think we're going to be. I think we'll be fine. He doesn't want to see. He doesn't want to see a war. And you have two things. You have the Iranian situation. With that, I think we agree almost entirely. Other than he's a buyer, and we're not. We don't need it. And on Taiwan, he doesn't want to see a movement for independence. He says, look, we've had it for thousands of years, and then at a certain period of time it left, and we were going to get it back. They had the Korean War. A lot of things happened. We have all this. But, no, on Taiwan, he feels very strongly. I made no commitment either way. We'll see what happens.
What about the arms sales to Taiwan?
I'll make a determination over the next fairly short period.
You're not necessarily going to go ahead. It was your
I'm
proposal.
going to make a determination. I'm going to see. I have to speak to the person that right now is, you know who he is, that's running Taiwan.
Mr. President, did President Xi make any firm commitment to put pressure
on the Iranians to reopen the Strait of Hormuz?
I'm not asking for any favors, because when you ask for favors, you have to do favors in return. We don't need favors. We've wiped out their armed forces, essentially. We may have to do a little cleanup work because we had a little month-long ceasefire, I guess you'd call it, but we have a blockade that's so effective. That's why we did the ceasefire. We really did the ceasefire at the request of other nations. I wouldn't have really been in favor of it, but we did it as a favor to Pakistan, who are terrific people, the Field Marshal and the Prime Minister. But no, I mean, President Xi and I agree on many things, and we agree very much on trade. We're going to be doing a lot of trading. Our farmers are going to be taking in. I mean, our farmers are going to be very happy with the deal we made.
Is your instinct that he will put pressure, that he will try and get them to do more?
Ask him to put pressure because I don't need favors. I think he will. I think automatically he'd like to see it opened up. He gets about 40% of his energy or his oil from that, from the strait. We get none. We don't need it.
Mr. President, on Truth Social, you said that President Xi had made a reference to the decline of the U.S. We didn't hear him say that. Maybe it was something he said in private to you. So what was it, first of all, that he said that prompted you to do this?
He made a statement. It might not have been from him. It was somebody, but they talked about the decline. But he said today, and he said it very publicly, he said the U.S. was declining for the last 4 years. And he said what President Trump has done in the last 15, 16 months has been virtually a miracle. He said we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. But he said that it was a declining country. Under Joe Biden, he said we had a seriously declining country, which we did, with people pouring in from all over the world, from prisons and everything else. He said what President Trump has done has been a virtual miracle. It's the hottest country anywhere in the world, and it is, yeah.
On a different subject, on Cuba, there's reporting that Raul Castro could be indicted by the DOJ, I believe. What does that mean?
Well, I don't want to comment on that. I'll let DOJ comment on it. But they need help, as you know. And you talk about a declining country. They are really a nation or a country in decline. So we're going to see. We have a lot to talk about on Cuba, but not maybe for today.
Tariffs, Mr. President. Did you agree with President Xi to extend that year-long truce on tariffs?
We didn't discuss tariffs. I mean, they're paying tariffs. They're paying substantial tariffs, but we didn't discuss it. Before I came along, it was the opposite. We didn't discuss tariffs.
How come?
It wasn't brought up.
Mr. President, you said in January to us that you were going to bring up the expansion of their nuclear program. Obviously, they've got 600 weapons now, by the Pentagon's estimate, going to 1,500. Did that come up? Did you succeed in getting them into any form of arms control? Or remember we discussed New
You're
Start?
talking about China.
China.
We brought it up. The denuclearization. I talk about it all the time with Russia and with China. And it did come up. We did discuss it.
And what did you conclude?
I don't know. I got a very positive response since the beginning. We're going to be together 4 times, potentially, this year. We have the G20, which he wants to come to, which I'd like him to come to. It's going to be in Miami. It's going to be in Doral. And it's going to be, I think, very good. Much more important if he's there. And so you have the G20. We have one that he has, as you know, in November,
Right.
in China. He's asked me to be there. I'm going to try and be there. And then we have another one on September, I guess, 26th or 24th, where he's coming into the White House.
I'm trying to understand what it is he committed to, if he committed anything.
Well, I don't want to say anybody committed, but we have a very good understanding.
So are you going to
the
move
concept of denuclearization.
Denuclearization or just an extension
Well, no,
of the
a denuclearization.
In other words, building down.
And you bring Russia into it also. But the concept of that is something would be very good.
Can I ask about the political prisoners in China? Did you bring up with President Xi any of the political prisoners in China? Are any going to be released? Any progress?
I think he's giving very serious consideration to the pastor. The pastor is said he's giving very serious consideration to that.
What about Jimmy
I discussed it.
What about Jimmy Lai?
It's a tougher one. So I did bring it up. It's a tougher one